artists. As the weather gets warmer, you're going to notice millions of tiny yellow flowers blooming, and these are called dandelions. And I love dandelions. The cool thing about them is as they dry out, they turn into white globes of seeds called puffballs. And those puffballs get dispersed all over by the wind, but also sometimes by people. A lot of people like to pick them, blow on them, and make a wish. It's kind of a fun thing to do. So this week's lesson is inspired by that, and we're going to make a dandelion drawing or painting, and we can write the words "make a wish" on it. In the beginning of the video, I'm going to show you how you could use masking tape, or if you have a tape like masking tape, and you can use it to make a nice border around your picture. If you don't have that kind of tape, that's no problem. You can just skip that part and get right to the drawing or painting. So here's my paper, and we're just taking the tape, ripping off pretty big pieces. You want the pieces to be pretty big because if they're too short, then you will have to use more than one piece, and it's easier if you can get one long piece that covers the entire edge of your paper like that. And it's okay if it's hanging off the edge like this, because later we kind of want that to peel it off. So you don't fold it back, because if you fold it on the back, it's kind of harder sometimes to get up. I would just leave those pieces hanging like that. You could even rip a little off if they're really long and make them shorter, but it's okay to have them hanging off the side like that. If you accidentally rip it and you get a little piece, you could still piece them together like that. But it is nicer if you can get one long piece, that works better. So we're going to be painting first today is a dandelion. You pick a dandelion that's all dried out, you blow on it, you make a wish. And we're also going to need some paper towels today. I think I'm going to do mine the vertical way. So I'm going to go the up and down way. But as the artist that you are, it's totally up to you. And as you can see in the picture, we have the ground is going to be green, and we're going to start with that. So, you know, on mine, it kind of curves a little. If you want to use your pencil to make a light line to show where the ground is, you can. Or you can just use your eye and your mind to try to pick a place. But we're going to start with the grass. And I like to wet my paper, do wet on wet for this. So I like to start by just wetting everywhere that the grass is going to be. And the cool thing is, because we have the tape on, you don't have to worry about the edges too much, because even if you paint on your tape, it won't matter. So just kind of wet the bottom of your paper. And then we're going to add some green for the grass. And you know, if you have more than one kind of green, it's kind of nice to mix a couple different greens, maybe even some yellow, so that it's not just one flat color. The more different tones and shades you add, the more depth your grass is going to have. So it's going to look a little more deeper like real grass. So I would add some dark greens, some light greens if you have them, yellows. So you can see here, I have a blended colors. I think I'm going to go a little more green and less blue here because my blue was accidental. So I'll just put green on top. But it's kind of nice how they're kind of blending and mixing together. So this is called a horizon line, and that line separates the sky with the ground. So we're just going to do the ground first. So wet your paper where you want the ground to be, and then drop in colors of green, colors of yellow, and the more different kinds of greens you have, the more interesting it will be. And you could put a little, you know, when you're painting a picture, what's closest to you is usually at the bottom of the page, and oftentimes that will be darker, and as you get further away from it, it gets lighter. So if you want, you can kind of leave the top of your green area a little lighter and paint a little bit darker on the bottom of the page. That might give your picture a little more depth and make it look like the top line maybe has the sun shining it or something like that. So if you want to put a couple extra layers of the darker green at the very bottom, that might help give your picture, you know, just a little more depth in the grass. The green is so wet right now, so I want to kind of let that dry for a minute. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take our pencil, and where we do want the dandelion to be, we're going to make a very light circle. So just a circle where your dandelion is going to be. Now, because the grass is still wet, we don't want to paint our sky right next to it yet. So why don't we just start with the top half of our sky, So put water on your paper. Don't paint inside the circle, and let's just paint part of our sky on the top of our paper. So, you know, depending on what color you want, I'm going to drop some blues in mine. But do you see I'm not going in that circle? I'm going to go around the circle. And just like with the grass, it's nice to mix a couple of colors together. The reason I had you guys wet your paper first is so it would be watery enough. And that way, if you want to put like a dark blue with a light blue, it's more likely to blend together. So we're doing little parts of our sky at a time. So add water to your paper. Then you add the color of your sky that you want into the water. So I'm only doing a little bit. And I'm only doing a little bit at a time because I want you guys to use your paper towels. If you want clouds in your sky, you're going to press your paper towel down right in your sky where you want it. And when you lift it, it makes pretty cool clouds. But just be careful as you start to get closer to the grass. That's where you want to be careful. If you paint right next to watercolors that are still wet, it's going to all blend together. So we might even have to wait to do the bottom of our sky if our grass is still drying. Just try your best not to paint in that circle that you drew. We're going to try to keep that clear. If you do get a little paint in it though, no big deal. And, you know, add as many clouds as you want. With the paper towel, it works pretty good. The more wet your watercolor paper is, the more that lifting of the watercolor with the paper towel is going to work, and the more prominent your clouds will be. So just make sure you do it right away, because once it starts to dry, it's really hard to lift the paint up. And sometimes if I've already used this paper towel a couple times, so once that's wet, it doesn't work as well either. So you may need a couple fresh pieces of paper towel too. So I'm painting like till about here because I don't want to have my grass mix with that. So I'm going to stop there. So after you paint in your sky, we're going to put it aside for a few minutes after that. Just let it dry up a little bit so that way we can finish it. It ruins the marker if you try to draw over the wet paint. So I think that's why it'll be important for us to just let it dry a little more. Basically, this circle that we had drawn, that we kept white and we didn't paint, that's going to be the dandelion. And the cool thing about drawing the dandelion is it's pretty easy. So you're going to start from the middle of the circle. You could do this in pencil first, but you're going to have to trace over it with a black marker anyway. So I like to be brave and just go for the black marker. The thinner the marker for this project, the better, because we want those thin lines. But I think we can do some pretty thin lines with a Sharpie too. We just got to be a little more careful. And what you're going to do is you'll make a line, and the line can stay in the circle, some of them pop out of the circle, but you want to keep them all kind of close to the circle. So make some different lines that either go like to the edge of the circle, some can pop out a little. And at the end of each line, you're just going to put a little X like that. So basically a line with an X, but you're going to really fill your circle up with a bunch of them and all coming out in different directions. If your paper's dry enough where your marker's not smudging or getting too wet, you can start to do your lines and little X's. And you want to leave some space in between, but not too much. Already, I mean, mine's getting pretty filled up. I might even stop here. Maybe I'll do a couple more short ones. You know, once you get all the flowers in the dandelion, we're just going to make a straight line for the stem. So I just did a really nice thin straight line like this that goes to the bottom of the paper. So again, make sure your paper is dry, and then when you're ready, you can go ahead and do that. All right, so on my first one, I wrote Make a Wish above the dandelion, but now I'm thinking of maybe doing it somewhere else. I'm going to do it on the side this time. I like to dot my I with a heart. So it's a little bit different, but still looks cute, I think. A lot of artists just print their names, so maybe for this one I'll print it. You can probably go ahead and tape the tape off. Now make sure, so like look at this corner. this layer is on top of this one. You want to pull the one that's on top first. And I want to go really slow. My tape was so sticky that it kind of actually peeled some of the paper off too. So just be careful because that can happen too. But it still looks pretty good even if that does happen. But look at that nice clean border now. I love that. Great job, artists, and may all your wishes come true.